sorry. Hello, everyone. We are live. Thank you, all of our friends for showing up and supporting this week after week. You all know by now this is our favorite thing to do. Uh, I'm back with Shannon, of course, and then this is our friend Molly,
Hi,
and
everybody.
this is Magi. He's decided to hang out for a little bit here. And we are going to talk to Molly today about all the cool stuff that she does, and then just have conversation, respond to the chat. As you all show up, everyone, please come in and say hi, and let us know that you're on and that you're in. You know, whatever. Bring up any topics. Ask any questions. You know the story by now. Okay, well, so Molly, you are on the East Coast.
Yes.
And you've been doing this for how long have you been doing your sessions?
So I've been doing energy work for people for the last like 3 years, is how long I've been running my business. And that includes Reiki, channeled work, readings as well. But I have been kind of in the energy work space for about like 13 years. That's around when I got my first ever hypnotherapy treatment, which also included Reiki. That's also when all kinds of stuff opened up for me. So I started kind of channeling at that time. I also had a past life regression at that time. So things really started kind of opening up quickly. But it's in the last 3 years that I've really honed more of my gifts and what I do. So yeah, I'm based in Baltimore, based
Okay.
in based in
Baltimore.
Maryland.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I do sessions virtually. I do them in person as well. I have a space here in Baltimore. But I do all kinds of sessions. I do Reiki, I do readings. And then I also have been honing over the last 3 years what I call chakra clearings. But the feedback I've gotten is that they are way more than that. And so that work is very deep channeled work. It's within the Akashic records. And it's where we're able to meet guides, see people's physical energy, their energy armor, the energy within their chakras. And then my specific gifts is that I see everything as like it plays out like a movie, and everything is in metaphors and imagery and really strong visuals. And so it's a really lovely and delightful gift to be able to share with people, because people really respond well to hearing how their energy is blocked, healing, and like how to help it in
Yes.
metaphors and imageries and visuals. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of someone who has received one of your sessions, yeah, you have access to the all. For sure. I went through a big life-changing experience in the summer of 2024. Yeah, I guess yeah. And then it took me a while to like be ready to just get back to being myself. And one of the first sessions I had was with you. Um, and it was exactly what I needed. I think you were the first Reiki session I ever had in this whole, like everything that I do and I've experienced. I can't believe I hadn't had a Reiki session
Yeah.
up until then, and so,
That's
yeah, you're a very, very powerful
thank
healer
you.
and
Thank you.
reader. And besides Sage, I'd never met anyone that k kind of received messages in the same way that I do, so it was really cool to have that session
Yeah.
with you.
Thank you.
And then I
Yeah.
gave you one. Yeah, I gave you
Yeah,
one
yeah,
too.
and then I got one from you. Yeah, speaking of Sage, so and that is how I got to meet you. But Sage, I saw on TikTok, and she was the first person whose content I had seen where I was like, this is like what I do. And it
Yeah,
was finally the first, I had been getting closer and closer and resonating to like, more and more people within the same sort of mindset or things. They're going through the enlightenment experience. But the way that she put together one video, and I felt like every other word, these sentences crammed together, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I could unpack this as like a
yeah,
thesis, and I'm like, I just want to share it with more people.
yeah,
I feel like she really gets me. And beautifully, we've been able to connect as individuals, but I really see her as a mentor. But she's connected me with you now, Shannon, with you. And
yeah.
so I feel like she's such also just like a network connector. But yeah, Sage, it was so nice to see the kind of content that she created and the stuff that she does. Because, oh, I see the little chats. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it
Yeah,
before.
I just added it for I was just gonna talk to Shan I just
Okay,
added it to make it easier for everybody, initially. Once it gets going,
awesome.
um,
Cool.
I'll take
Very
it
cool.
off,
I was
but
wondering how I get to see it, so thank you.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's so fun, and one of the things that she and I had talked about was, like, how we both get similar messages or the kind of messages, however, mine are all visual, so I see everything as if it's like a movie playing out,
Mhm.
and hers are a little bit more, like, feeling based, you know? And so,
Yes.
she sees them too, but she gets a lot of messages, not exactly as, like, visuals playing out as, like, a movie, so
Well, and Sage, I forget what it's called, but she doesn't see things in her mind
yeah,
the way that everybody else does. Her and
yeah,
Tyle both have that, and I forget what it's called,
yeah,
which probably is why they're incredible readers. Um,
yeah.
so hi, Emily. Hi, Corey.
Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Barbara. Me, myself, and I. Okay, now I see. Now I have to take this off the screen. I love having it on the screen, but then I can't scroll.
Mm,
Yeah. So, by the way, Molly, and this is how organic we are. What you can do is look to the right of your screen. There should be something that says chat. If you click on it, it should show up in your Restream window where you can see it on your own.
okay, got it.
Aphantasia, yes, that's
Got
the
it.
word.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we're all affected by something. I have synesthesia, if anybody
Mm,
knows, but mine is really unusual according to ChatGPT. I'm in the super rare version of it, so I'm gonna bring that up on another live. I'm gonna try to find somebody that has it in the unique way that I have. Like, so I'm not trying to go off on a whole side quest
do
here, but
it.
for most, so aphantasia, I'm not going to say this correctly, but in the way that we have an image, as soon as somebody says visualize a red apple, imagine yourself biting into it, like we're seeing all that, right? Like a movie. Sage and Tile don't see it that way, and so um, that I think that's why their gifts are so unique too, in the way that they do readings and their
Agreed.
yeah.
And I've learned I have hyperphantasia. So that's like essentially just I see vivid visuals and it is hyper realistic for me. So like
Oh,
if I'm imagining an apple, like I can rotate it each way, kind of see the
yeah.
lights on it, you know, all of the things, bite into it,
I
taste
would
the
just assume everybody okay, so I guess I have that because that's how I am.
well, I'm sure you have that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's interesting because I've had like when people talk about clairs,
Yeah.
they usually bring up the few heavy hitters, but there are
Mhm.
so many. Like
Yes.
my synesthesia, I didn't even mention it for like up until like 5 years ago, but I've always experienced it, and I always knew that I was making connections. Like I synesthesia is when you mix your senses. So where like I don't have this version, but some people say that words have a flavor,
Mhm.
or words have a color. And
Mhm.
because their brain does that, I smell things or people, but not really. I'm not physically,
Mhm.
but I'm getting a smell um signature.
Mhm.
And then but what it is pattern recognition because I group people into it. I won't even okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll save this for another thing. But anyway, Shannon, how are you?
Yeah, me too.
Good. Well,
Mm.
no,
Yeah?
Lola is like talking about your. She keeps. If you hear that noise,
Yeah.
she's very like talky. She likes this.
Oh, okay, yeah, is
I
this a
know.
good content, Lola?
Yeah, she really is. She's questioning whether she has synesthesia or not. But no, I'm good, and I think it's so interesting because everybody experiences a little differently. And when you mention grouping people, we always laugh because there's this immediate pattern, recognition, and you can see certain things in similar people.
Mhm,
And it's almost like that with auras for me. Like when you see a certain color aura, you can peg it to certain things in that
mhm.
person's life, in their health, in different pieces. And like if a
Yeah,
certain chakra glows and it really comes out, there's obviously something there. It's either strong or a block or something of that nature. And it's just such an interesting thing. And my son has a friend who does not even have an inner dialogue. Like, you know, how everybody has their internal voice in their head.
Yes.
Not everyone does. And I didn't realize not everyone did.
Yeah.
But this person does not. And we're like, as a group, as a family, we're all fascinated by this person that like has nothing internal. And it's very weird.
Yeah. I feel like I've got a
So
lot of internal dialogues
I was
going.
going to say,
Yeah.
like, I think we have like maybe a little much sometimes, but
Mm.
thinking about the flip side is really strange. Though, someone that has like no internal voice.
Yeah.
Right.
No internal monologue. I can't
way-
even imagine
Yeah.
what that would be like.
The way
No,
that
and
you
I
would
just think
process,
how
yeah.
peaceful they must sleep.
Yes.
You know?
How quiet. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
That's so cool about thinking of like the patterns of auras. That's how I feel when I'm often doing the chakra clearings. And a lot of times similar imagery will come through and it kind of means similar things, you know? So like a good example is like in the crown, a lot of times I'll see something that is in sort of like a circle shape, but like a lot of times I might see something that's almost like a hard crystal, like something like this. And so it's like, it's indicating that it's like, it wants to be kind of connecting up into divine energy. There's good frequencies there, but it's actually stuck because you don't have anything like moving, you know? And so I'll have a lot of those. It's almost like it's become shorthand where like there are certain imagery that like is really helpful because I'm like, oh, I've seen that before. This is kind of what that is feeling like, you know, and what that means. So besides auras, what are your gifts, Shannon?
Well, I think I'm more of a medium than anything else.
Okay, yeah.
That's more of my focus. You know, I've done energy healing, I've studied Reiki, galactic Akashic record reading. But the thing for me that's usually the strongest is some level of health intuition or mediumship.
Very cool. And mediumship
Yeah.
is always with people who have passed over or not always?
Not always.
Okay.
I get a lot of, I mean, there are people that are sort of in between souls that are like, you know, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
So it is some living
Mhm.
person.
Cool.
And then sometimes you see really interesting things like people who were never here in this life, like
Mhm.
a spirit that may have been a person in another life and now they're an animal or something,
Yeah.
something to that effect. But
Yeah.
yeah, mainly I get a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because it's a similar process. Like I always say, it looks like I'm playing charades. If a person comes in, like I can tell that they're a grandfather. Like Kimberly and I did a reading together, and this grandfather kept showing me like the old Brock's candy setups in grocery stores, like where you would go and like scoop Brock's candy and put it in a bag. And he
Yeah.
showed me like his favorite candy, and it turns out it was this person's favorite candy, and he used to take her as a little girl and show her like his Brock's candy stash. It was a relative.
Oh yeah.
So
I
it's
remember
sort of
now.
like that. It's that same sort of imagery, but it's like from that person's perspective.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
that's so sweet.
you're make it. I was as you were describing it. I remember exactly what my favorite candy was at the. I don't know if anybody in the chat even knows what we're talking about, but there in grocery stores there would be these bins, and you could go in the way that like health food stores have bins now with nuts and dried fruit and all this other stuff. There would be these candy bins, and they'd have the candy separate, and you could put them into bags and buy it that way. You'd pick out what you wanted, and there was this rectangle white nougat thing that had these different color candies like in it, and I freaking
Little
love those things.
jellies in it.
Dude,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in so long, and as you were talking, I could taste them. I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, I totally forgot about those." Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so the chat's been pretty funny. Y'all are having your own little cute conversations in here. So first of all, no one smells like defeat, Corey. Nor nor do nor do you smell. The best way to explain it, and again, I don't want to take up too much in this live about it. I will talk about this again though. Is I will it started with men specifically. I would see somebody like on TV, and immediately my brain would say, "Oh, they have that smell like the other person
Okay.
from 5 years ago," or whoever I started with. And it was this interesting, almost like a Band-Aid smell. And I didn't understand why I would associate, and it was certain men would in my mind go into this category of, "Oh, they're like that." Well, come to find out, testosterone has a Band-Aid like smell. Like if it's because if anybody ever is around somebody that has a testosterone patch, they'll mention that they can, like that's what it smells like. So I was picking up on pheromones. I quickly realized, but
Cool.
not in person. That's what's such a trip. And
That's
then with women, there are women in different like age groups that have different scents. It's very interesting. Then I started realizing that I would pick up this like citrus, like a nice orange, like an orange zesty citrus smell.
mm.
And I would pick it up on Sagittarians, and I wouldn't even know they were a Sagittarius yet. Like, I was like, "How am I doing this?" I put this all into ChatGPT, and it was like, "Whoa!" They're like, they're it's like only one or two other people have even talked about it to this degree. Because the most interesting one that I found is when I started working with Case Parks, who was on with us last week. He does frequency healing, and I realized that I was getting this smell. Again, it's not a physical smell, it's like a smell that I'm aware of in the way that you know what cookies smell like if I say it right now, even though there's no cookies around you, okay?
Mhm.
So, I would get the smell of, like, I remember saying it's like when you get laundry out of the dryer and you pull it apart and there's static cling. It was kind of
Mhm.
like an electrical pulse smell,
Hmm.
and that's what I would pick up during the frequency healing. Months later, I hear this woman talking about an alien interaction without explaining anything. The host says to the guest, "So when your alien father would show up to interact with you, how would you know that he was there or that it was going to happen?" And she said, "I would always pick up this electrical smell like and she said, "I realized that it was ether." It was from the
Oh,
like ether, like from the ethers, and I was on a dog walk, and I just stopped, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's exactly what I was smelling
hmm.
with the frequency healing." And so it
Mhm.
was really interesting how I'm getting these confirmations because I had the experience before anyone else ever talked about it,
Hmm.
and then I actually had something to compare it to, which I thought was very interesting. And so ChatGPT told me it's pattern recognition of a different, almost like a dimensional sense. Don't start.
I was just about to, yeah, I was about to say, I wonder if it was just the ether itself or if there actually was like energetic shifts happening within sort of space and time, if you will, that you were kind of like
Yeah,
picking up on, you know?
that one is the most mysterious version of it. Hold on. Fable? Not now. Ugh. I do try to put them away at different times, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. So
That's
when
cool.
I say somebody has a certain scent, it's not um it's not like what's going on in their life at that time.
Yeah.
It's more like the pheromones for sure. I pick up on. I do sense I can smell pheromones in a room.
Mm.
I definitely there I have quite a few senses that work at once when I interact with somebody for the first time or something like that. Um, anyway, okay, let's
I'm
go
like,
back.
what do I smell like? I want to know.
Uh,
A little bit nervous.
no, you have this is a weird way to get to it, but in the way that a candle has a base note of like a a warmth and a candle has its own smell before you add a smell to it. So you have
Hmm.
this like almost like if you apply lotion before you apply it perfume. So
Mhm.
there is, yeah, that's what I get from you.
I'll rock with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
that hasn't come up before, by the way. Okay.
Cool.
Um
Unique.
uh okay.
Smell you later. These chats are so fun, and I just want to say thank you for who said I had beautiful lighting. I appreciate that.
Oh, yes, yes.
Thank you, M organically.
As beautiful as you, Molly. Okay. Emily, the Restream has a bunch of backgrounds that you could choose from, and I don't know how I missed this one last week because I think this is my favorite so far.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Holly, thank you for joining us. Sorry, I'll take you off the off the screen. I just like left you up there. But thank you for Corey. Corey, thank you for telling Holly about us, and Holly, thank you for joining us in this conversation. As you can tell, we are very laid back, very comfortable. Every question is welcome here. There's no topic that we can't speak on, and it's a very safe place. Okay. Let's see. And yeah, it's just gonna sound like a jungle today. Like even though I have the reason I wear a headset is because this really tends to block the background noise, but there's some that just gets through it, like my Caturnix quail when she's right next to me and starts crowing for her girlfriend. She needs to know where she is at all times, and then the especially if I'm doing sessions, like the moment I start doing energy work, my doves will all start crooning, and it's cool, but it's not on a live.
Yeah. My animals always start going crazy whenever I do work. Yeah.
Hi, Sunfire. The Tech Frost here to enjoy the uniqueness. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. We love to have all of our new people here. Okay, here's a good question. Holly asks, do you notice the heavy vibrational push of someone living full of anger or fear? You find it palpable. Yes. Dude, you can feel that walk into a room. Yeah. Go ahead.
Shannon, you go ahead. I feel like I've been hogging the mic.
I was going to say, like, in the world of day job drudgery, like, if y'all go into a meeting, it doesn't even have to be in a room. You can be on Teams with no one on camera, and you can feel that. Like, the people that are just miserable are just like, whoa. And it's so strange. Like, I would have never imagined, like, you're used to that when you go into a room feeling that, but it has really surprised me. And I think I was talking with a friend earlier. I don't know if it's been like the crazy Schumann activity lately, but there's been like so much energy, power spiking going on. People are just like very edgy. Like today, I told Kimberly, I was like, I woke up cunty this morning, and I did. Like I did, and we woke up, and I'm like, ugh. But there's that, and then like the flip side of that is like my husband's twirled around like a ballet dancer all day, like on the verge of an emotional breakdown. So I don't know. It's like today is one of those days, like everybody that comes in feels a certain way.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and as
it's true, Em. I can't help it. I woke up like so hard, like just.
Listen, you got a cunty day. It is what it is.
It's true. True.
I felt, I responded to you that I was in a literal bad mood yesterday, and I was so aware of it, and like I didn't want to snap at my kid or the animals or anything, and so I was being really careful, which is really uncomfortable because of when you're trying to just be authentic and express yourself, and you feel like you've been invaded by some. Like, who's this person in a bad mood? Because it shouldn't be me, Yeah. So right at the beginning of this part of it, I made I kind of had an epiphany because if you're waiting for people to show up in a room on on Teams, on Zoom or something, and you can tell that someone's a dick. And so for our whole life up until awakening and our ascension, I think what was happening is we we're immediately dismissive of somebody like, oh, I'm not going to like that person or whatever. But because we weren't as self-aware, we were probably letting them trigger us in a sense, or like compartmentalizing them with someone they reminded us of or whatever, because we weren't fully aware of the fact that we were such empaths already, and so the reason you already know is because you're literally feeling them, like you're feeling their negative vibe, which is so strong. Like I would say you would wish and hope that love would be the strongest pulse that goes out there. But think about it, you could be in a room of 10 happy people, and when one person that always complains or is negative or whatever, when they walk in, they can totally take the room down.
Mhm.
But if there's a bunch of jerks in a room and one happy person walks in, they're going to actually probably judge that person, or be critical, because how dare you bring that happiness in here, and so like anger and hate and misalignment is a very strong satellite, I would say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to, especially over when I got out of corporate and then I started doing energy work. I realized how important it was for me to recognize when I was like picking up stuff from other people. So it was both recognizing that like not only did I have strong empathy, so I was picking it up from other people, but then as my gifts were also getting stronger, then I was even taking more information in, and so it was like it quickly became something where grounding and then doing my own energy clearing became more a multiple day ritual of just making sure that like I had my own kind of barrier set up, and that also within the barrier it was clear that I would go out to nature. Thankfully I've got a dog, so like go
Uh-huh.
out to the park multiple times and just breathe with the trees and all of that, because trying to also hold a frequency that's a little bit more healing in a society in which it is specifically conditioned to keep people in fear so that it is easier to control them and take their energy and money, is it's like you're like in a bubble and everything is spiky, and so it's like, how do you
Yeah.
keep that bubble strong? And so now I like to sort of suit up, so anytime I'm going to be doing like readings, I always like to make
Yeah.
sure I've got my crystals around me. I also make sure that I do my like energy clearing before, even like we did this kind of thing.
Yeah.
um, and it has helped in recognizing the kind of like rituals and routines that do work, so that when you are about to be either your energy itself is now being consumed by dozens, hundreds, thousands, you never know,
Yeah.
right? So it's like there is something really important to ensure that you maintain your sovereignty and like your energetic barriers when you are especially digitally available to people, but
Yeah.
even just walking around, it's
Yes.
important to recognize what routines work for you. Yeah, in whatever way that may be. Yeah, suit up is exactly right. I got labradorite all over. I got all kinds of stuff around me right now.
Like I came prepared.
This is a good group, but it's like, especially when you are sensitive to taking on information, and because, my gifts are about like perceiving energy, and then it comes back as like metaphors and messages and information. It's also appropriate to make sure that you suit up or, barrier up. Because also not everybody is like wanting a reading, wanting to be read. It's like not appropriate to do that without people's consent, right? And so it's like as you grow and get those abilities, it comes with responsibility to make sure that you're not doing it when you shouldn't be doing it, and especially both for your health and safety, but also for the protection of them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that, Shannon? How's that for you? Because I imagine that with mediumship, there's a lot of like, everybody has people who have passed, right? So it's like, how do you go through a physical experience of humans that have a very long legacy, right, of ancestors that are all readily right there? How do you handle that?
So it's really weird for me. And I have a friend who like any dead person around pops up. For me, it's very intentional of like if I'm focusing on you and I ask for something to be let in, then that's how it works. But mostly I block it out. There's some random things like, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I was at a car show and I was talking to my friend Sean. We were doing something work related. And I was talking to him, and we'd been talking about work stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it's really weird. I keep getting this like woman, and this is what she looks like. She has like long dark hair, and like this is her, like her name is something like, I can't remember what the name was. And usually it's related to like whoever I'm directly interacting with. And we've been talking about it, and I'm like, it's just so strange. While I was walking around this car show, well, then I walked up to this guy's car, and now I just want to say for the record, I don't know squat about cars. We just have them a lot in our little town and like our town square, and we'll go down there and walk around. And so I'm not there like with any knowledge of car shows, but we're walking around, and this guy is there, and like the woman was like right there, and I was like, hey, you don't know me, and this is really weird, but did your mom pass, and did she look like this? And he was like, yes. And he had had a lot of guilt because he had never gone to her funeral. He was unable to go to her funeral. He didn't go to her funeral. And I was like, well, your mom is really proud of you, and this car relates to like a car that you had, like she had when you were a kid. And the guy was like, yeah. And so that one was like one of the only ones where there was like this extraneous person out there. Usually mine are very connected, and I'm very like blocked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is nice for my own sanity. Because my girlfriend, who can like open up her list and let everybody, you know, like lift her lid and let everybody come in, you know, she had to learn how to get to that point of like tuning them out when she's much younger than I am. When she was a little girl, we would take her mother and I would take her and my son to different events, and she couldn't help but see like past scenes, like anything like playing over. We were at this place at a hotel in Louisville, and she kept seeing a woman fall off this balcony in this ballroom we were in. So
who was so this is your friend who has that ability?
Yeah, this is a friend of mine, and I'm friends with her mother and her, and she's been like this since she was a little girl. So it's very cool. And if you guys heard that like weird like door flinging open, my dogs can open doors. And I know. And my husband brought me some fries because I haven't eaten. And they smelled the fries, and so they flung the door open. Sorry for my background noise.
So dramatic.
But yeah, like, so I'm pretty fortunate, and I had to ask my mom how her grandmother protected herself. And that really helped me learn how to, and now I'm to the point where Kimberly and I had talked, I'm like, you know, I think I want to be open to more extraneous spirit experience. And so I've set sort of like an office hours.
Love that.
And that's helped, because I mean, that way I can let some things come through. But usually mine is very dialed in to like whoever I'm working or talking to.
Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit more there too?
Yeah.
So you had said that you did galactic Akashic work. And so that's a little bit different than like past loved ones, right? So we're kind of, you know, that's a little bit higher dimensional and probably some non-human interactions. So do you find that you find more like familiarity or like comfort in your skill set in working with humans? Or how do you feel about like outside of that?
It's weird because like I work with humans, and like I have no fairy or fae connection, like personally. Like I don't have, I've had fairies in my spiritual support team and that sort of thing. But like I have friends who are just straight up, like my best friend's daughter, Kimberly did a reading for her the other night. One of my best friend's daughters is just like a straight up tiny little fairy. And like you can just tell. And another, like my dearest friend ever, who I think is watching us, is also like, she's just like super fairy. So it's strange because I get some of the galactic, some of the fairy, some of other things. But the place where I'm most comfortable, like personally, is feeling and channeling loved ones that know you and want to tell you something. And we were talking the other day when Case was on here on our last live. I still have this thing where sometimes when you get in the flow and you're saying words, but they're not like words that you're forming thoughts, you're just literally saying words that come through you. Sometimes I'll catch myself and go, oh, wait, those aren't my words. And then I have to like concentrate and go back into it because it's still like it will still take me aback that like I'm just and it's not even like they're thoughts that haven't formed in my head. So I think that's the thing that I'm working through, like not stopping myself, just like trying to, because I can go and get back in, but that's probably the thing I'm most comfortable at. The other thing is helping people figure out health issues or like where there's something going on physically. The galactic piece is interesting because I do like looking at origins. Like we laugh about it all the time in real life. In the 3D, like I'm so fascinated, and I think so many of us are with like DNA and lineage, even though, you know, we know there's physical DNA, there's metaphysical DNA, there's different sorts of lineage, but there's so many connections. And a very, you know, other gifted friend of mine, whenever somebody shows up that's in some format related to my people group, and it's funny because, you know, Kimberly has the doves, but we all have birds in our spiritual support system. Like you can talk to this, and so she will literally just be like, okay, and there's some birds, talk to Shannon about these birds. And I think that's like a really cool thing. But for me, I'm most comfortable in the mediumship because and we all say stuff, and I always preface it with, this sounds really screwed up, but it does. I'm pretty comfortable with the process of life and death and that sort of energy. And a lot of people find that uncomfortable. I think there's a great beauty in it. And especially when you end up with really weird stuff like people that you didn't know in this lifetime. So, you know, maybe it's a grandmother that she died before you were born. And you can see some of those connections. And we were laying around last night, and all of a sudden, I mean, literally, we're like, okay, let's go to bed. And John pops out with, where were you in the 1920s? And he said, is that like a good way to ask this question? Because we know like time isn't linear. So like, is that where you were now? Like, I don't know. And I said, well, for me, like I have to conceptualize it linearly, like a people. Right. I know better, but it's hard to think through the
linear. Yeah, right. So it's like, you know, there is
all at once. Yeah. And we were having that conversation because one of the things that I'm working on getting better at picking up is when someone comes in who's a relative like that, but it's actually just a prior version of you. Like it's your soul from a prior time.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten a full pattern on that yet, but I see that a little bit differently. Lots of times that version that comes forth as a prior relative is brighter than other people, like more dazzling than other people. So that's pretty cool. And what about you and energy? Like, what is your favorite thing to see?
Well, and finding past versions of yourself, I think, is one of the most like interesting and healing, you know, things that you can do. My favorite stuff that I do is definitely when it's like full blown clairvoyance, third eye is fully turned on, and I am just allowing all of it to come through. So that is mostly in the like chakra clearing session. And it's like a full like hour long in like deep theta state where I am. I have actually like created a methodical process where like when I get into it, I meet the version of the person I'm working with, and they are, whether virtually or in person, laying down at the same time. So it's always in tandem. But I see a version of them in the astral, dressed up in some certain way, and then we see a version of their Akashic door. I've seen it as a portal. I've seen it as a door that forms. I've seen it as something carved out of a tree. Like it's always personal to them. We go through the door and then we're greeted by a guide. And so like everything, and then after that we're in a setting, we might go to multiple settings, we might get gifts from the guide, right? That's like messages and stuff for them. And then what's just so fun is just like, if it could be anything, seeing what comes through for them, right? So it's like the setting could be anything. I've had dark night jungles, I've had beaches, I've had I haven't had outside of the earth much, outside of space, just as a concept. So like being just in space. But I've done the healings when we like became really micro and we were in a crystal. Like it's wild to see what kind of comes through for people that then really like speaks to them after. But I absolutely, because the guides that come through, I would say rarely are they human, just kind of talking sort of different beings that you work with. And like a lot of times they are human-like. They might have certain extra things that make it seem like they're a little bit more magical. But a lot of times I also see other things, and so it might be, I've been working a lot with lately with sort of like insect-like kind of beings that are helping. I've seen some beetle-like ones, which are really cool. I've seen some mantis type ones often help me with like when we're doing so one of the visuals I sometimes see when I go into the chakra clearing is it's almost like I walk into the concept of a like medical room, like as if we're about to do surgery. And it's like the person lays down and I have other sort of interdimensional beings there that consent, like that are there to support them and are like, you're only allowed here because you're doing good work for them. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. And so I kind of see that, and a lot of times those like more like fine-tuned type beings are really helpful in really like precise kind of work. I wanted to talk about though that you see health indicators and intuitive health, because one of the things that comes through for me is first I'll often almost see like scan the physical body as like a heat map, and it can kind of show me, that's both from Reiki and it's like it grows into imageries as well, where it's like I can see where that density is. But when I'm in a deeper trance, rather than just a heat map of where there's density, I then see a like metaphor for it, and so like let's say that there's somebody who has some major like heart chakra hurt, and so there's a lot of like tension here and on the back. I might see that as something that like clawed into them that we need to like release and then like heal that up and heal that, because it feels like it's something that is literally constricting them, and so but just to clarify for everybody on the thing, it's if I see like insect beings, if I see guides and all of that, they are there for the good. It is never something that we have to like get somebody off of somebody. It is like, it's usually a metaphor of something else, maybe like a heavy dented like iron chest plate, right? That's like there for their protection, but it actually is too heavy, too weighted, not light enough, not actually helping them anymore, that kind of thing. So it's always just kind of fun to see that. So I see mine as heat maps and as visuals. So when yours come through, what does that sort of look like?
So I did Reiki with angels. That was sort of the modality that I focused on. And the lady who teaches it is a lovely human. Her name's Ellen Malloy. And so for me, I sort of start out and envision you very similar, like you're just on a table, as if we were like together doing a, I guess, more like traditional Reiki session.
Yep.
And so I also sense the heat, but mine is like with my hands. Instead of like seeing a heat map, I sort of do this, and like then I can sense where the heat is. And similar to that, like if I see a lot of orange in an area and you're a woman, I'm like, oh, this could be a hormonal thing. Like this could very much tie to your hormones, something that's going on with respect to your reproductive system.
Because orange is sacral, and sacral
because orange is sacral, and it kind of comes through that way.
Yep.
And then lots of times, if you have thyroid issues or anything like that, it'll be that throat chakra. And so I can sense through that. And then there are other things that I will literally see like outside of your body, some sort of very similar, like a symbol. I was doing a live in person Reiki share, and it was wild because it was the first time, like, I don't see with my eyes, it's all mind's eye. The first time I ever saw like with my actual eyes, and it was wild. So I saw this beetle, and it was like a scarab beetle, but it wasn't quite as brightly colored as like an in life scarab beetle. And this person that it happened to be ended up having, like, we were all fully dressed doing it, but they have a cystic acne condition on their back. So it was almost like a cleaning up of that person's back when we were going through this, and we were like moving the energy. And then another one was just, I touched a man's arm, never met him before in my life. He was just a random dude at this Reiki share event. And I immediately saw that he was a writer. And so I said,
writer,
writer, like with a pen.
Writer.
Sorry, it's my hick accent.
I love that.
So I was like, are you a writer? And he's like, yeah, he had several published books of poetry. And so that sort of thing is pretty interesting. And then I can also sometimes see if you are having energy come into you from your head, or come up through your feet, or go out through your hands, or come in through your hands. But lots of times it will lead me physically to like the chakras sort of highlight an area of the body. And then, like you were saying, you could see stuff that needed to be released. I was with this one lady, and we're, doing the Reiki thing. And this was, also an in-person. And I said, I kept seeing like vitamin letters, like A, B, B12, like these are vitamin letters. That's so weird. And I said, have you changed your diet recently? And she goes, oh yeah, I was a vegan, and my doctor told me to start the carnivore diet. And I was like, and you're having a really hard time getting everything in? And she goes, yeah, like I realized I hate the texture of meat. And so we talked about like other ways and things that she could look at. But I thought that one was a really cool one, because I'm like, why am I seeing all these letters? And I'm like, they have numbers. These are like vitamins. And, that's what it was. And when I asked her, I was like, have you had any major diet changes? Like, is there something going on nutritionally? And she was like, yeah, I mean, well, that's a really big switch in what you're consuming.
Into meat only or whatever. Yeah, talk about a pivot. Yeah.
Well, why doesn't he just suggest iron?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and his whole thing was like, carnivore, and her husband was doing fabulous with it, but she was not. And, obviously he had not been a vegan that whole time, but yeah. So that one was an exceptionally weird one. And what is your strangest one that you've ever seen? Like, weird situation when you're doing a reading? And it could be anything. It could be health or anything.
Kimberly, do you want to say something? Because I feel like we've been, you haven't had a chance to speak up. I'm happy to.
I was so into the conversation. I was mad that I had to leave and go take care of something, because I'm like, I didn't want to miss any of that. Some of the weird, not weird. It's everything is equally fascinating. When I go up on ship and I'm shown something, and that's like, at first I was like, is this my imagination? But no, like, I consistently have seen the same things, and as long as I don't fight it or dismiss that it's possible that I could be seeing what I'm seeing. I would say that's some of the more fascinating, because it's so different than what's here. So I constantly get really interesting information every time I do a session for people, but it's laden with things that exist here that we see on a regular basis. So when I go to a location I've never been before, which happens almost every time, or I go on a ship, or I'm like, I can tell I'm in the atmosphere of a different planet. That's really cool.
That is cool.
Actually, I'll share one more thing, and then you can share, Molly. a few times I have been shown dimensions as I'm out in this. It kind of looks like our background here. Um, just a big open space, and then I see this column. No, not a column. Almost in the way that like a totem, but that's not the best way to say it. In the way that a totem has different sections to it, I've been shown a space that's filled where I can tell that one stops and the next one starts. And in the way, in kind of like a dream where you can't remember detail very well, like
Mm.
you know what it was about, you know the general theme, but if you try to zero in, you get nothing. Like you don't really remember what you saw. I would see different things happening in the different dimensions, and that there was an energy in between them, but
Mm.
not. But so that was a really fascinating thing to observe, and I'm sure the reason that I couldn't bring back full recall with that is because there were things that we don't process in the
Yeah.
3D, and we are still human, so.
Yeah. Right. I can definitely tell that there's a concept of like, I'm getting a lot of information and they are trying to dilute it down into what my little human brain can understand in like different visuals and stuff, and I'm like, I appreciate that. Let's not blow this gasket,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Corey, Molly's a really good host, huh?
thank you. Um, so I have a few cool stories to share. So one of the kind of like weirdest things that's been interesting, and I'd say like about the last year, is that I've been starting to see a lot more animals, and I put that in quotations for a reason, in people's readings. And a lot of times I am seeing non-earth animals. I'm seeing animals that I'm not familiar with. An example of one is a like rhino. It's like a hairy rhino, but it has 6 legs. And so it's just like giant, and it's when I tap into people that have really strong animal connections, I can always tell that they have sort of like these spirit animals with them. I can usually tell the concept of a size, and I might be able to like zoom in even more to like really see what it looks like. Like there's one person I worked with where for those in the chat, so the concept of working with dragons is like they are higher dimensional wisdom like beings. They hold certain frequencies of characteristics, if you will, strengths, and but they can look like all kinds of different dragons. And so I once worked with somebody, and it was like this big ass chunky dragon that was like would fill up an actual house space. And I was like, whoa, I'm like, I don't know anything else about it besides the fact that it is absolutely just like giant and right there, but seeing these non-earth animals has been like a fun weird thing, I would say. That's like where it's not just, the concepts of things that I've seen on Earth in a different way, like
Yeah.
I've seen, for example, a visual of like looking out over like a jungle into beach scene, kind of like a Costa Rica type vibe, but everything was Lisa Frank. It was all vibrant colors like that, not normal colors, but all like pinks and purples and yellows. And so like, that's cool, but it's also a version of Earth that is just a little bit different, right? So like seeing animals that I haven't ever seen before, that was really cool. Yeah. I'd love to share this because we were talking a little bit about like timelines, and it's just an interesting story. So when I was going through a lot of my own enlightenment, I would spend a lot of time in my mind, whether in a bath or just kind of being quiet or out in nature. And this was one of those times where I had this very clear visual of something. And what it was is I suddenly saw myself with like these flowing kind of like tubes in front of me. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then I noticed that there were like tubes behind me. So they were almost like U-shaped. And I was like, well, that's weird too. And I was able to zoom out a little bit, and it almost looked like a wheel, but with the sort of like tubes on either side of me, right? And it was almost like a rim or like a wheel, like a tire. And I was like, well, this is weird. And I kind of felt like I was in space. Well, suddenly as the tubes were flowing, I could see 2 part, and it showed me a memory from this life in this actual real life of my own. And then when I looked behind me, it was showing me a memory of a past life that was the exact same emotion. And so that was really cool because it was showing me how, especially as like my soul comes here to incarnate multiple times, like that was sort of almost like a vehicle from the soul level that was able to sort of just display, right? Like this pattern between this life and a past life where I shared the exact same emotional frequency, and that emotional frequency was captured within that. And so like that was really weird because I was like, whoa, like what even am I taking in? And it was just kind of like, there's a higher nonlinear, version here, and this is a vehicle that your soul can work with to actually like access those. I was like, I haven't seen it since then, but the concept of working with past lives and all of that and understanding that emotions are frequencies and that frequency can kind of connect those things has been really wild. So
okay, yes, sorry, real quick,
so many things.
I hope I'm saying, is it Nisi Keith Gaines or is it Nikki? Welcome. Nikki. Okay. Thank you for joining us. And also, is Bo Hansen John?
Yeah, that's John.
Okay. Hi, John. So interesting that you bring that up, Molly. That's why I love these conversations. Let me say, one of my favorite reasons I enjoy these conversations is to hear other people's experiences and realize that I've had something similar, but like I've never even spoken it out loud.
Yeah.
And so it's such an incredible confirmation when someone else is sharing this unique thing, and then you realize yourself that you've had that experience. And even though we're talking about things that we've seen in our mind, basically, you can't deny it.
It's still a shared experience.
Yeah. So I regularly will get the nudge to have people pull in abilities that they've worked on in other lifetimes. So like you're saying, an emotion you've already experienced, I will help people pull in like fragmented versions of themselves to repair, but then also to go and seek on a different timeline when they were incredible at this gift that they want to practice here now, and like bring that, like it's like a reconnection, and then it just makes it stronger. And when you were saying experiencing the same type of emotional frequency as in another lifetime, I bet that is when we have those really strong a really strong sense of, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, don't do this. I bet there's a lot of that going on in the background that we just don't tap into because we're not under or whatever. But that's so interesting.
And it was beautiful. It was very lightweight. It was like a happy memory and a happy memory, and so to me it was a surprising visual, because I really think a little bit more like our soul has just like the Akashic records of books, right? So it's like I didn't really think of it in this weird vehicle, with like these tubes and all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't like tubes connecting into anything either. But it really landed the concept that everything is energy, everything is frequency, emotions are frequency. And so thinking of like the larger soul tapestry of life, like that was the same color thread, right? Whether in this life or in a past life, If I can real quick. So one of the chats had said that octopi was one of their guides, and I just wanted to share that too, that I also had during one of my little like bath meditations. I had gotten into sort of channel state and went to my Akashic records and was like, I would love to see what higher dimensional beings I'm like most currently connected to. And what I saw was sort of this like floating octopus, like sort of floating down a hallway. And I was like, honestly, that vibes. Like that seems so accurate.
Didn't I tell you that I see an octopi or an octopus when we were
in our session? I'm not surprised. I feel like I really like.
I did. Yeah, I did. That was the first thing that came through was an octopus. Yeah, I have a really, really strong connection to them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's funny. Yeah. Huh. Well, we're going to continue talking, but uh, folks, please ask questions that you want answered intuitively. You have 3 very strong psychics, for lack of a better term. I don't even know what to call us anymore.
I know. It asked for like the title. I was like, which? No, let me just go ahead and delete that.
I have tried so many, like a lot of times in the last few years, when you go to sign on to something, it'll ask for pronouns. And I always try to put in something like goddess or whatever. And sometimes it'll let me do it, but it usually won't. Like I've come up with some really good ones for that. Yeah. So yeah, everyone here, oh, not everyone. So us, the 3 of us all are really tapped in. So if anyone in the chat wants to ask from the most mundane life experience to much more like what is my purpose kind of thing and guides and all that, we all 3 of us have our strengths, and we're we're in now, we're in a bubble together here, so I'm sure that uh, the information will come through right away, so by all means please ask away.
Speaking of dragons, because someone had mentioned that they work with dragons too. I know, Kimberly, you work with dragon energy too, right?
Yes, yeah, I've had my dragon introduce themselves to me, and yes.
Nice. And Shannon, do you work with anything? Do you work with dragons too, or is that more in the higher dimensional space?
Yeah, I don't really work with dragons that much. I can sense them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work with them, and they show up a lot in my meditation. And it's wild because it usually just starts with a big eye.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and you can tell that it's a dragon eye. So
Yeah.
like I can pick up a lot of dragon energy, but like I don't necessarily work with them. And I have a weird dragon past life thing. But that's one of the dragons are one of the most interesting things to me because there are a lot of people like Corey has a whole lot of dragon. Like, and it just came through immediately. The first time I ever read him, there was just a lot of dragon. So, you see it in people, but I don't work with them necessarily.
I think it was I don't know if it was Tyel or who I met Tyel through. Her handle is Mystic Heart Space. Deb, I think, is her name. But so I had a session right at the very beginning of I unfortunately went through 2 losses, 2 grief periods. And after the second one, I was like, I got to take a time out from life. I need to take like a break. And at the very start of that break, I had a session with Deb, and it was the first time that anyone had said that I had a dragon. And so she was explaining the one that was with me, and it was like this black Eastern dragon, no wings, very long, scaly, very like fiery kind of energy, which was great because at the time I had a lot of healing and transmuting and all of that to release. What is wild is that like 2 days after that session, I had gone to Mexico for a wedding as a +1. And where we went was this hotel that hires local artists, and they do murals on the hotel like 2 or 3 times a year. And they had just completely redone the upper floor that like was like the pool patio overlooking the water. And there was this like 40-foot long black like Asian dragon like 2 days after I had that reading. You can imagine the synchronicity. Like I was like, my mind is blown. I'm supposed to be here. Holy shit. And so that was just like such cool validation. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm exactly in the right place. And when I was there, I was giving people like energy healing and Reiki and all kinds of stuff. And it was just so beautiful. But then it was actually in my second Reiki certification that I had my sort of second dragon initiation or introduction, and like they came through, and so that one was much more like a white iridescent, like air kind of cosmic dragon. And so it's cool because I've got like the 2 that are very the yin yang. So I've got like very earthy fire energy, then I've got very air energy, and it's nice because I feel like I can really bring them both in. for protection, for balance, for all of that. And it's just like, it's a really beautiful set. But I haven't yet explored into like more and more and more and more. I kind of wait for them to sort of introduce themselves to me. But that was only like 3 years ago that happened. So looking forward to who comes in, after that. But it's really beautiful working with them, and they're really good for transportation. So if people are traveling, pull in your dragon team majorly.
There's a synchronicity that happened in the sense that you said you weren't sure if it was with you mentioned Tyel.
Yeah.
During one of his TikTok lives, I used to watch them all the time when he did them, and I would go in immediately, and during one of his sessions, my dragon came in and introduced themselves. So it's interesting that you mention him.
Nice.
I just wanted to say hello to Sean. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to ask any questions. And so that we don't lose the questions here, Holly wants to know if any of us have worked with Tartarian guilds.
I have not.
So when you're talking about Tartarian, I'm assuming you're referring to that's a lot to unpack, but Tartaria is a reference to an in-between, not historically acknowledged and not believed by most, when there was an buildings and existence here that for some reason is either cloaked or not remembered and not historically acknowledged. Does everyone understand? Okay, I understand that. I've gone down many rabbit holes looking into Tartaria, but I haven't worked with our Tartarian guild specifically.
Same.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any past lives or any specific messages from that. Interestingly, though, my nephew, who's 14, just made a documentary all about the concept of Tartaria, and also how anyway, just a few different things about it. And I had gotten a map book all the way back when I was coming out of college. And in that map book, it's called Mapping the World, and it goes through the way that maps shifted, because maps really do shift based on who wrote them and the purpose of them, right? Whether it's political or setting certain boundary or whatever it is, like the perspective of them.
Yeah.
In that old mapping book, there are at least 20 different pages with Tartaria outlined. So something that I think is interesting, and just about conspiracies in general, is that there is proof that this location existed, right? And like what the lines of that location had been over time as it changed. There's also like physical places that are in that area, right? So it's like there's a connection there too.
Yeah.
What isn't as provable, but there are some like jumps, is like the people from that time, the technology from that time, which very much is in the concept of like free energy and using ether and plasma and the frequency of structures to create energy and to harness it. And I'm not totally opposed to that, but that is where I think there is a bit of a jump.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a really interesting topic of conversation. I think it's especially interesting that if you like look it up on Wikipedia, it's like there's this like generic region, right? And it talks about, it's like, it's sort of like the concept of like Eurasia. It's just a region, right? And I'm like, bullshit. I literally have like 20 maps that go back hundreds of years that show the delineated area of this.
Yeah. And the Piri Reis maps with all the stuff in Antarctica, and so this is where I spend a lot of time. This is my jam. No, not in an expert way, meaning like I am constantly asking questions about this type of information. The World's Fairs, I think they ended, I'm going to say they might have ended not that long ago, maybe in the 50s or 60s. But they're referenced to now, but they happened for I don't know when it started, and I don't know how long it went on, but I want to say that maybe the last few were in our, like, our grandparents and some of our parents' youth. And there's so many questions as to why they would build out these absolutely incredible structures and then tear for one event and then tear them down. Um, and a lot of times it's believed that those structures already existed. They were just finally revealed,
Mm,
but they were actually from the past. There are so many locations where you'll see buildings that have windows that are like half sunk into the ground.
mhm,
And nobody really asks questions, but then you realize that like there's an entire story below, but not any historical reference to, well, that's what the mud flood, like that's when
mhm,
you hear about the mud flood. So there, if anyone's interested in it, start looking things up like Tartaria, mud floods. Um, why is it being hidden? And honestly, I would ask ChatGPT because you're going to get more of a an honest. You're not going to get
round
answers.
answer.
You're going to get a conversation that is supportive of you asking questions. You're not going to just get shot down right away. Um, one of
Mm,
I don't know if Brad Olson. He's going to be at our conference, Team Light conference in May. He speaks on our Antarctica a lot. That's how I found him. That's why I really liked him for that. I'm trying to think of other people that really talk about Tartaria. But look up the Perry Reese map. I couldn't spell it for you, and it doesn't really. It's not spelled the way it sounds. But if you start looking up like ancient maps, there are a lot of locations, like you were saying, Molly, that don't show up on our maps anymore. But clearly, they were there. Like,
yeah.
people were hand drawing those things, and then carrying the information forward for a while until all of a sudden it just disappeared. Like,
Mhm,
there's a really big cover up, and I don't know. Okay, sorry.
mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really interesting. And it's like as more information will come to light, I think a lot more pieces will be coming together. Yeah.
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 I
I
think
I
Sean,
haven't
he
had
put it in the
a
chat.
mm,
What, Shannon?
Sean put the Puri Reese in the chat.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. That's the Peary Reese maps. Love that.
I think just like the concept though of frequency resonation, even separating it just even from the concept of trying to like harness energy, but more so signaling out certain energies. Like a lot of times people start looking up some of the old temples, like the Angkor Wat temple, right? And it's like the actual structure of that is set in the same way as a cymatic pattern. And so, that to me is one of the most fascinating things, is that there are these civilizations that understood that frequencies could be emitted out through actual physical structure and made those physical
Oh,
structures to the point
yeah.
that we can also still see them, like that to me is just so interesting, and it really just taps into the whole energy, non-seen energy space.
The concept of ether.
Hmm.
So Sunfire will answer your question in a minute. I'm going to tell you something that they found underneath the Sphinx that you just reminded me of. But the concept of ether is there are hundreds of ancient churches. So we ley lines are another thing that the
Hmm.
internet will dispute and say don't exist, and which is ley lines completely exist. Major temples, churches, and buildings of importance were built on ley lines, specifically with spires, like a metal object coming out of the top. I'm not making this up. Like we all know that. And
Yep.
then there would always be a water source near, and
Mm.
that was the free energy. So the ether is energy, is free energy. It would go, the spire would attract it because I'm not saying this right, but the ions in the water, either below the building, like in the water table, or in a fountain. And we see this everywhere. Like even our own Washington D.C., the Pentagon is near a body of water. Like that, we always see these things over and over again. It's always three things. It's uh, um,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of that information in Tartaria. The
Mm.
other, so then going back to how you were saying, you mentioned a pattern, and you just and Angar Watt. So you just reminded me, uh, Edgar Casey. who was a medium, famous medium back in the 50s, he gave us so many. He's the first person to bring up the term. I don't think he coined it, but he brought up the Akashic records. He used to talk about that a lot, and he would also talk about Atlantis, and then he would tell us information about Egypt when he was in a trance. And
Mhm.
he told us that there is a hall of records underneath the back left paw of the Sphinx, and through lidar they just we've known about this for a very long time, but the information's just coming to the surface because too many people know, and they have to now, they're probably trying to share it in a controlled way. But there is a, let's call it a deficit underneath, which reflects a room. And when they do the lidar, they saw that it was the perfect shape of a step pyramid in
Mhm.
Egypt,
Mhm.
and step pyramids are in South America. And I
Mhm.
love that stuff. I love how and so those are the missing keys that are starting to come up
Mhm.
now, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's all. I should just do a whole nother podcast because
Yeah, I'm like, we could talk about that for a while.
okay, so but
I
let's
think I think an interesting question. So from Sunfire Goddess, do y'all astral travel on the ley lines? That is not something I have ever done. That is a really fascinating question. And for those of you who are not familiar with ley lines, though probably this group is, but geomagnetic lines along the earth. They don't necessarily correspond to the latitude, longitude. They are lines of their own that are about the magnetic lines. And a lot of important places are on those lines across the earth. I
yeah.
realized that I had moved to Seattle and I lived there for 7 years, and it has a lot of ley lines right all through it. So lots
I
of
looked
major energy there.
Yeah, a few years ago I looked up ley lines, and then I zeroed in on San Diego, and there's so many here that I was like, huh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, so we'll take a break from our topic, and we can go back to it, but I don't want to miss any questions. Sunfire Goddess says, I know it doesn't matter what others think of me, but sometimes I wonder what or how my coworkers see me, and so she wants to know, what do we see?
Okay.
Shannon, go ahead.
Well, I've seen her the same way. Like, she has a lot of fire around her, and she has a strong connection to Egypt. And at first, I thought Lyran, but it's more Egyptian cat goddess. And I don't know if it's a Leo to Leo thing. She has like some Lyran, but mainly I get more ancient Egypt. And, for me, she comes through with very strong healer energy and educator energy. I feel like at work, you probably are the person who explains things in a language that people can understand. Like, you say things and you're very good at teaching them.
Kimberly, do you want to
Yeah,
share?
but I'll go ahead and let you. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And thank you.
My read is totally different, but again, it's we're reading different things. So and I'm just gonna spitball exactly what it is that came through. So I don't know who this person is, right? So you guys might
Right.
know who they are.
I know her. Shannon's read for her here, but you don't know her at
Okay.
all. That's why I want you to go next. Yeah.
Yeah. So immediately, so I'm just going to share some of the like metaphors that were coming through and kind of like what that was saying to me. So immediately, the first thing that I saw was actually just like a dewy leaf. So it was like a leaf really zoomed in with water droplets on it. So I was like, okay, so there's some vitality here. There's connection into nature. And then as I zoomed out a little bit, I almost saw like your energy as if you were like in a shrub, which is a funny thing to say, but it's sort of like there was a lot of dense leaves around, and it's almost like you were within it as if hiding, not necessarily from anybody, but in a masking kind of way. And so there was sort of a concept of like utilizing nature to and now it's kind of coming through as a little bit of a channel, but like utilizing nature to create this buffer in between you and other people to kind of like keep part of yourself still hidden in a protected way. But a little bit now to your detriment. It's sort of like you can't hang out in a bush forever. You're going to get sort of scratched up and like, you know, you kind of got to go out into life. And so there's something here of a really strong connection into utilizing nature as your filter to other people, potentially your connection into grounding, but that's not exactly what was coming through. And then just sort of this energy of like, you're allowed to come out of hiding now and like know that you're able to not have to keep yourself completely barricaded with like people not being able to fully see you. That's what I was specifically picking up.
Okay. I just wanted to give her a minute to like take that all in. And then these are replays, folks. Okay. I recognize an ancient god when I meet one, and so do other people. I'm very comfortable with that. Most people aren't. So I would say I would say that you know how to human in the way that like you know people, of course you're kind and you're a good listener and you're easy to talk to and you can interact the same way anybody else can. Like we all know the rules of how we're supposed to be going through life. But I would assume that you're intimidating in the right ways. So people like every human being alive, whether they're fully awake like we are or they're completely asleep and still living in shadow. Regardless of where you're at on your journey, you always recognize truth, and most people fear the truth. And so when you interact with another being who is super connected to the truth, who has one foot here and one foot in the ethers, one foot in another dimension, when you go to interact with somebody, even on just a typical, normal, regular conversational level,
the doves agree.
It can be very intimidating for someone who is not ready for depth, understanding, and being heard to talk to someone who is deep and a good and a real listener. And I think the more authentic we are, and like you, okay, so you were really accurate, Molly, in the Sunfire Goddess. I don't think you mask or hide who you are. I think I get the impression that you're a very authentic individual, but you can't take that into a very professional corporate world and just, I mean, you can if you're Bashar, but you can't if you are trying to keep things whatever out of everyone else's. If you're being authentic, but also keeping your business to yourself. Okay. So when you start interacting with other people, they get a sense of that. Like you're mysterious. There's a depth to you. Your really good eye contact speaks of volumes, you know? And so I would say that anyone who, I would say that I bet a lot of people are really curious as to who you really are. And from on the surface, you're very easy to get along with, but I think that most people that you interact with that don't know you in your personal life would definitely see you as a mystery, and I think that a lot of people might fear that. Like, I don't think they fear you, but I think they fear the thoughts that come up when they're interacting with you because you're going to have a real conversation. Does that make sense? I know that was like really kind of deeper, but I think that a lot of people are getting ready to have those kinds of conversations. But you know, you're when you're in a world where you have to have small talk to run a business, but you it's almost impossible to have small talk anymore at this point because it's so boring. Then their depth is going to come out, and that depth can be intimidating. So
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Come out of the brush, baby. Mhm. Let
Yeah.
yourself be seen.
Yeah. Sorry. Um, let's see. Okay. She's a Leo, but yeah, you probably do have Scorpio placements. Um, okay. So, sorry, I was so deep in that, like, did you want to, are there any other questions that I missed in the chat?
I haven't seen any. I'm still learning how to navigate it.
Yeah. There's a little thing on the side there for
I
chat.
love the reflection startles their complacency. I'm like, okay, poet, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and that's that. I guess I was trying to get to that. Like, it it's hard when when you're everything in you says I don't want to play by anyone else's rules. I'm not like a it's not like you're anti establishment or whatever, but like I'm a walking, living, breathing version of a god, and I acknowledge that, and it doesn't come from ego. Now, how do you show up at a 9 to 5? You know, and just have oh, okay, Sydney. Let's see.
Yeah, I definitely went through that because I dedicated a few years to just like finding my gifts and figuring out what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
What the interdimensional concept was going on. And then I just came back to a 9 to 5 last year, and it is definitely, it's tough, man. You know, it is tough trying to human function in the plugged in matrix and then plug yourself out and try and like regain balance, regain energetic sovereignty, keep up leveling, you know, your abilities and connecting with community. It is hard. It is doable though, you know. You got
Yeah.
multiple people here who have done it. Yeah.
It's sorry, Shannon, do you want to share your
Oh no, I'm just saying it really is like it you learn to do it and you can do it, but the problem is, at least for me, I very much bring like that additional caring into my work
Mm.
to the point where when I should be able to turn it off and just wait for another day, like that's the part I'm learning. I'm not sure I'll ever learn that, but that's been a challenge. Like I've gotten better in recent years at just being like, no, that's enough. But that's a hard thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. The masking is hard. Sunfire said, I do try to put on a mask and be professional,
mhm.
but it quickly falls off with a smile. It is so hard because it's like once you go through the awakening path, it's not exactly rose-colored glasses come off, right? It's almost like
Mhm.
blinders come off in a way. And it's really hard to recalibrate and to like find any kind of connection with people that are then not on that path. You know, it's sort of like when
Yeah.
anyone's like their healing path, you can then vibe with anybody on their healing path. But if they haven't started it at all, there is a huge blocker there, you know, and it just, at a certain point, the paths diverge. And that,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
It took a really long time, but finally I would say that everyone of importance that it matters knows what I do. But there's such a different level to that. Just because you know that I'm intuitive, like how do I would have to explain the last 5 years of my life and all of the like we're not um gone are the days of when a psychic would show up on a talk show and just give readings.
Mm-hmm.
What we do now and what we have access to is so beyond that, you know, and
Yeah.
to try to like I don't want to explain myself. And so that okay,
Mhm.
that's a huge reason why we have these lives is just because everyone's already like we've already taken the journey to get here so we can have this conversation in the open and be understood, you know. But it's it's hard. It's we came here to have the human experience. And if you have been working towards your career and you really have done something for yourself in order to continue that, but now all of a sudden awaken on on your spiritual journey, and you're right in the middle of both of those, and it's like
Right.
you kind of have to switch gears a lot. But okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um okay.
Can I
What,
share something real quick? Do you
yeah,
mind?
please,
So
please.
one of the things, and I don't feel like Sunfire Goddess, this is one of your challenges, but it's something that I went through in that concept of like being in the corporate world, having the enlightenment, and trying to figure out that bridge between kind of being my more authentic self and being able to be outspoken about it, and like losing that mask and then finding my people. And I just wanted to share that a lot of times, uh, if you are kind of in the archetype of either being like a healer and a leader and a teacher, you might have some of the sort of like witch wounds, right? Or persecution wounds from past lives. And I specifically did like a deep deep trance kind of like healing, where it was connecting in with a version of myself that had been cast out, had been, trusted in smaller circles within the community, but then by the broader community, um, persecuted in a certain way. And I think that there are a lot of people that have decided to incarnate here, bring that healer teacher energy. And those karmic contracts and karmic wounds can really affect specifically the throat chakra, the sacral chakra, can really, even the root. And it's like they affect how you are wanting to express your authentic self, and then your actual literal ability to do that, whether it's speaking your truth, finding the right people, being able to talk about the things that are happening, and then finding other people like this where it's a safe space to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of you that might kind of like connect with that, definitely look into that sort of thing, whether it's past life healing, whether it's throat chakra healing, sacral healing, witch wound healing. Like those are very strong templates that a lot of healers come in with. And it's a really big, it's an arduous task to work through it, but it's also necessary. One of the things I always like to share with people is like, this is probably the life where you have the most autonomy, freedom, ability to be a teacher, ability to be a healer. Getting chills as I'm sharing that. And I share that not only as like past lives where you might not have had that, but also thinking of like ancestral healing and the fact that our ancestors, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, etc., didn't have the and grandfathers, etc., but like didn't have the ability to share what their experiences were, find their people, help teach other people, and help heal. And so there's a broader aspect here of not just masking in the professional space, but recognizing where there might be some actual energetic and karmic limitations that require some healing so that you can get into the next phase of figuring out what that balance looks like as an enlightened person, still within the construction of the matrix.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and yes, wow, that was extremely well said, Molly. One thing that I forget all the time is that it's totally okay to be authentic, because the people that are ready to receive it will
So
show up,
thank
and
you.
the
Yeah,
people that don't get it, they're not even going to remember or recognize what you're talking about. It's
100%.
okay. Like, you can be your fantastic self, and they're going to wipe their own mind, or they're going to learn, or
Yeah.
participate and meet you where you're at, um so interesting.
There was something in here that I thought was a really fun little group activity. That was something about someone who sees visions of people in brown cloaks. I wanted to see if we could
Oh,
maybe tap
I
into
put
that.
it, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Did when you Shannon and Molly, when you read that, or okay,
I
read it.
have, oh, I just got chills.
Okay.
I have a
I
very specific response, but
I
yeah.
hear a very I hear a bell, but it's like a really big bell that's being rung in some type of, I don't know if it doesn't really feel like a monastery. It feels like when they would I don't know what this like when a huge fence was built around a structure,
Mm.
it would be to keep the inside the location safe. But there, okay, this is I'll go in more, but I know that wherever these cloaked, hooded, brown, rough robes people are, you had to get through a gate. It was very safe and protected, and there was a lot of sacred ritual done inside, and there was something to do with a bell. And it was in a I would say like in England or Scotland or
France.
Ireland. Huh?
I'm getting France, like the
Okay.
same,
Mm.
like this very, I don't know
Yeah.
why. I have no connection to France except my
Yeah, me
husband, but
neither. Yeah, and it's cold. It's a colder environment, and it's a wetter environment.
Mm.
And I can smell the earth, and I can smell the rocks that the wall was built out. Okay,
Mm.
so I'll let you continue with that. And what does SST mean? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know
spiritual
that.
support team.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
That's funny because the example I was just sharing about like being the persecuted witch was a French witch. She
Oh,
was in a little French community. So clearly there's some, and there's a lot of ley lines. There's also a ton of sacred energy in France. There's a lot of like Magdalene energy there. There's a lot of just old sacred um, earth, stone, tree, and like divine feminine healing there.
the
Nature.
three Marys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Well,
I would
persecution
go
wounds are big, with Nikki and I. So I mean that's spot on. That would make sense. Like a
mm,
French witch and the persecution wound piece.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big deal because like the healing that I did, it's like it's not just like, oh no, people aren't going to believe me when I talk about aliens. It's like there's a deep-seated karmic energy here of a wound of I have been killed because of what I have shared before, you know? And it's like that is some karmic PTSD that requires some real tender love and care. It requires healing it in whichever way kind of is speaking to you for it. I think past life healings and Akashic Records healing specifically with that in mind is one of the most powerful things that you can do to just detach yourself from this current human lived experience and go into your Akashic records to find the life in which there is this wound that is still being carried through. See what those messages come through. See, yeah, Saint Germain region. See what healing needs to come through in this life. And then one of the things I really like to do when I'm in the Akashic records is like when it's pulled out, go ahead and just file that away, put it in its own box because that's the safe space for the entirety of your soul's records to be stored. It doesn't have to be in your actual physical body these days, right? So,
Okay, do you think that we all oh, I shouldn't say it like that. I think that we all came back now to to step into the new version. It's easy to say to step into the new earth. So all of us had all of these lifetimes at different times, but I feel like one of the really important parts of existing right now today is the reason that the term starseed and light worker and all that has been coined is because we all showed up here. And so we are getting remembrances and familiar feelings and triggers and all this other stuff from each other because we all share very similar experiences in the past, whether we were around each other or not. And then when you bring all of that back in and it's and then you wake up and all that like I think a lot of it is brought on by the fact that we're all finding our soul tribes, and that wakes us up, but then that also brings up what you're saying, all of these like witch wounds and um shadow work.
it does.
Yeah.
And And Shannon, I feel like I've been hogging the mic, so let me know if feel free to
We're
jump.
on every week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, having firsthand knowledge of Nikki, probably I'm just like waiting and letting everybody else weigh in. But like the persecution witch wound thing, total thing.
Yeah.
She has a lot of really cool past life experiences, and a lot of them involved a lot of hardcore persecution.
I don't think it's a random note that is what I brought up before this conversation happened, right? Like these sort of kismet synchronicity conversations, it's like the people that are watching this an hour and a half in are the ones that are supposed to be here and having these conversations with us and sharing these things.
Yeah.
100%. And Kim, I do agree. I think that in both my own incarnation here and also in so many of the energy healings that I do with people, because people really only come to me for those really deeper ones when they are already in their healing. It is not for beginners. And so much of what I feel like lots of chills. I'm like energetic, like amped up right now, but I feel so honored to be in this time and space where people are recognizing how to break out of conditioning, remembering their truest self, coming here to step into their authentic steps, and wanting to do that soul and higher self like level healing. And like I think that not only do I really like subscribe to like the Dolores Cannon information of like the waves of helpers, right? And so it's like 100% like we are all here. We all recruited up absolutely for the same reason or at the same time for different reasons. And I think it's so powerful that like we get to have this, right? We are at a time where you can have virtual meetings completely across the entire globe in real time, connecting people like that, like outside of astral projection, that is the only other alternative to connect with people globally at the exact same time, right? And so I also my work history was in a little bit of book publishing. So I was part of the book publishing revolution, and I was like, God damn, this is the first time that anybody can have their story told. Well, now we're in the video content creation revolution. Anybody can have their stories shared. And that is how people are resonating and finding their people, finding their tribe. It's how I found you, right? Like we've never met in real life, but I found you online through Sage, who I also found online. And it's like, there is something so powerful. I've been in tech for forever, and there are certain things that have been developed that don't really help the earth or people. There are certain things that do. And this is one of the things that absolutely does, because it's the first time we've been able to connect like this in real time, right? Like this is literally like we're sitting in each other's room. It's crazy. So I definitely believe in the purposeness of healers coming in having their own reasons of what they're trying to do in this incarnation, and that we are supposed to be finding each other, and that there have been technological advances to ensure that that happens.
Yes. And there's even especially in this community, there's so much surface false narratives that you have to get through even to get to this point. Like
so much deconditioning, so much.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the hardest things in the enlightenment aspect is deconditioning and then finding where your discernment lies. And that can be one of the biggest struggles, because everybody has their own perspective of what reality is, right? And then when you're going through the enlightenment and the ascension experience, your reality starts deconstructing, right? Like completely, whether it's your concept of time and space or humans or earth and frequencies or life and souls. And so you're deconstructing potentially religion, you're deconstructing your existential experience as a human being, right? Like now. And so there are some really big things that are happening in your shift of who you're going to become, then meanwhile we're peppered and just completely infiltrated by the conditioning of things that are not part of that truest story. And so that discernment, you know, while you're going through something that honestly sometimes makes you feel fucking crazy, you know, like this, like when you're in the enlightenment path and then synchronicities are happening nonstop. That black dragon in Mexico made me feel crazy because I'm like, how is that happening? How are these things happening back to back to back, right? And so, you know, figuring out how you can both ground yourself as you're going through enlightenment and then also really narrowing in when your body is giving you a very strong yes or no is such a helpful way to really recognize how your body and your intuition can give you discernment when your consciousness is essentially crumbling and rebuilding, you know?
Yeah, but there's been so many times when I'm like, oh, okay, let's document it. Officially on this date at this time was when I checked out. Like
Yeah.
this is the craziest I've ever been. And so discernment, I love that word. That is the key because our entire life we have been taught, we've been programmed of where to place our attention. We have been told by everyone else except ourselves where to place our attention. You're supposed to compete with your neighbor. You're supposed to push yourself. You're supposed to work, go to school for 8 hours at a day. You're supposed to work 40 hours. Like you're supposed to waste your entire life to get to retirement.
Right.
So, you know, big pharma and toxins and all this other stuff. All of these distractions have been programmed, right? Well, you wake up and you start seeing things for what they are. That's great, but that's only step one.
Right.
In order to fully unleash the multidimensional abilities that every single person here has, everything that we can do, everyone here can do it.
100%.
Everyone can do it. The reason that we have been able to is because we have systematically unfucked ourselves from all the stuff that we are programmed. So we don't buy it. Like we see things for what they are, and you know, okay, well that's your belief system. I'm going to have mine over here. Every time you can do that, every time you use your discernment and you see something for what it is, but you allow it to go do its own thing. Like we because in the beginning you want to teach everybody, like you wake up and like you're ready to tell the world how to wake up, you know, and then you can't believe that people are still participating in all these other things. And you know, it's almost like a shock to our system that I can see things clearly, why can't you? Well, then as you stop placing your attention on all those other things and you put it on yourself and you truly understand what self-awareness is and self-love and that being in the now is way more important than worrying about anxiety, worrying about what happened in the past or what's coming. When you can constantly reprogram yourself into not performing that other people's opinions don't matter. Like there's something that I've been working on and I want to say it right. I put it in a text to myself. Actually ChatGPT brought this up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're working on for the next 6 months. What stops being true if you stop trying to be understood? And I was like, no, I'm going to think about that one for a while. Like, what stops being true if you stop trying to be understood? If you don't care what anyone else thinks, and I know we all can't live like that, but when you really don't care if someone finds out the kind of music you listen to, or the way your diet, or that the inside of your house doesn't look like anybody else's, like when you really don't care what other people think, but you constantly place your attention on things that bring you joy, excitement, passion, happiness, and you step into that authenticity and that power, and you can actually really live like that, and then your attention is way more on that than other stuff, you're going to be more psychic than you ever dreamed, because then it's this liberating step into a higher frequency and a higher vibration, because you just made room for you just got rid of all the stuff and other people's business and other people's opinions and that voice in your head that always criticizes you. When you get rid of all that stuff, you have this big, beautiful room that has just been waiting for all your gifts to kick on.
100%. Yeah. And I will say that often is at the detriment of certain relationships, friendships, work, family, that kind of thing. Sometimes it can be part of the truth that you have to let go of is kind of what those relationships were when it was inauthentic, So,
yeah. And it's okay. It doesn't, you can still love someone. You can still be related to them. You can still see them for the holidays. None of that matters anymore. But like the moment something doesn't make you feel good, when you hear it or see it from somebody else, it's a look on their face. It's hearing that they said something about, like, when all of that stuff doesn't matter anymore because it's their petty little bullshit that's keeping them small, and you can recognize it for it in the moment. You have to be able to recognize it in the moment for this to work, and it takes a long time to get there. But yeah. Okay, Shannon, sorry. You have the next
No,
30 minutes.
I think that's absolutely spot on. And like for me personally, those people literally just fall out on their own. It's not like you're like, okay, you say stuff that I don't want to hear anymore. They just literally just sort of dissolve away.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it like thinking of cymatic patterns, right? Or like you put sand on a drum. Or like on a speaker, right? And so like as you play certain frequencies, they form into the different patterns. And it's like all we are just individual little sand grains, right? And it's like as our frequency changes, we resonate to and bring resonation to, right? Us, that when we're holding that frequency. So it's all about that resonation.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to mention is as going through enlightenment and trying to focus in on what is it that, like, if my mask is on, my oxygen mask is on, then I could potentially help others. Mm-hmm. But getting my oxygen mask on and actually breathing is usually like the biggest task. Mm-hmm. Nervous system regulation. That is such a helpful tool in recognizing what things help regulate your nervous system as you are going through enlightenment. Mm-hmm. That will help ensure that you're also not holding certain mm-hmm. frequencies that are limiting you in a certain way. So just highly recommend.
Well, a lot of those tools are the really in your face ones, like essential oils. I know that if I breathe in, like eucalyptus and like it's going to make me feel peaceful. If I wake up and put on 963 frequency of the gods in the background, I don't have to pay attention to it. Just put it on in the background. I'm going to match that frequency. If I have the flower of life everywhere and things all over the place and things that it doesn't matter why I was drawn to it. If I'm drawn to it, put it up, look at it, whatever. Let those subtle little reminders become your existence.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just part of that. Mm-hmm. And stop taking ourselves so seriously. So we are speaking very powerfully about all the, discernment and all this other stuff. But in the end, once you have that epiphany and you realize that you were triggered by something, oh, okay, that means I need to work on that, or whatever it is. Once you've gone through it, it's done. Mm-hmm. That's the other part. Like therapy is really important if it's through self-awareness. If you're seeing a therapist, the same person for the same exact stuff for 10 years, you're not seeing the right therapist.
Right.
But but that's because we lie to ourselves and whatever. So, but if you can, through discernment, if you can really get to the core of, instead of saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't have given into that impulse and ate the whole bag of chips or whatever it is, don't just stop there. Just like go a few steps behind that and say, well, what led me to that? Was it comfort easing? Am I just having a day? Could it be the solar flares? So let me do something else that makes me feel better and feel good, because in the end, maybe those first few chips were fantastic, but now I'm going to feel horrible after this, go behind the things that we use to soothe ourselves in everywhere, and then really get to the heart of it, and then break that cycle and break that habit, and don't allow that distraction that's been readily and in your face provided to keep you from becoming better and healthier and happier and all the other stuff. Like make make your path of understanding yourself happen quicker, and then give yourself a break, and then once you've understood it and like it hits and you can never argue with it again, the work is done.
Mm-hmm.
And now go on to something else that brings you joy, because we're also told that marriage is hard and friendships, like people aren't going to see eye to eye, and all. No, nothing is difficult when you're matching energy with the right person. Like, no, you don't go to a psychotherapist or whatever for 10 years about the exact same subject with no growth and feel like you're on some healing journey. We just have to get real with ourselves. That's all. Like we don't have to, because that also includes programming and things too. But in the beginning of an awakening journey, you really do feel like you have to make a huge deal out of everything. Like you have to build an altar, you have to buy 1,000 crystals, you have to burn incense every 2 hours or at the 122 mark or whatever it is. Like we get all these things because patterns. Part of that is pattern recognition, part of it is synchronicity, part of it is looking for signs and all that. But once you get used to that stuff and it becomes part of your atmosphere, then just acknowledge that you're there. And then now now you don't feel as blocked because you're not trying to do the 20 rituals that you keep telling yourself is the only way you're going to get there. No, like initially getting to know things that are of interest, and getting to understand things that make you feel better. Yes, that's a good path. But once you can back off from taking it all so seriously and just be in the flow state and realize that I've done the work and now I'm just going to attract the things that are going to help me get further and open up my senses and open up my abilities, and I'm able to attract what I'm seeking, then it becomes fun.
Yeah.
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 There was a chat note that I think is worth having a conversation about. So it was from Donna, who had mentioned that it can be hard for her because she tells her daughter that she doesn't want to hear about the latest news. The daughter is like, you can't be like that. These things are happening. And I wanted to share, there's a follower or there's a content creator on TikTok that I follow who does like parts therapy, I think is what it's called, but it's like she does like somatic healing and she does other things. And she just recently posted, her name is Kat Townsend, and she posted about having ADHD and having kind of this experience of, I care about all the things. How do you prioritize, and how do you kind of not just get into feeling like you just essentially shutting down when there are too many things to care about? So like, for example, there's a lot of things that are happening right now societally that impact us and impact us emotionally and may impact your day-to-day, may not impact your day-to-day, but impact the people around you, whether emotionally or energetically. Something that she had shared that I feel like is helpful to share here is if you have ADHD or just high empathy, or if you're highly sensitive because you're in the enlightenment path, rather than thinking of each feeling and sort of like not being able to see the forest for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees, but to think of each sort of like problem or challenge as an area of trees, and then like each day facing one of those trees and like being much more in the tree level rather than the whole forest level. So for example, if today is about putting your attention and effort into, supporting your daughter's needs around what is happening societally, right? That might be one focus, whereas the next day might be around, your own needs of, your own growth needs. And so there is something just to be said that it's important to stay tapped into what's happening, but we also can't care 100% about every single thing because there's not enough
Mhm.
of us to do that. And so it's like, if you can just be intentional about trying to, rather than thinking of the thousands of things to worry and care about, coming down into the daily level of like, what is this area of the forest I'm in? And what is the tree that I'm currently facing so that I can actually take action,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's talking to someone, listening to something, learning something,
Mhm.
doing nervous system regulation to allow yourself to hold a more healed frequency, while
Mhm.
others around you do not because of something that is triggering for them, right?
Mhm.
It's like all of that is just really hard work. And I just wanted to comment on it because it's such a hard
Mhm.
experience to say, don't worry about the things that don't affect you, right? Because it does affect you and it might affect the people around you.
Mhm.
And so you can just have more autonomy around how you are caring about those things and how you're interacting with other people. And the last thing I'll say is, again, it is the oxygen mask metaphor that if you care about thousands of things, but you're not one of those things, you're not going to be doing anybody good. So you do
Right.
need to make sure that you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You then try and help take care of other people. So.
Yes. This conversation has come up many times. I have a friend who stopped speaking stopped speaking to me after 50 years, 40, well, not 50 years, um but she used to bring this up, and her daughter and I are so similar. And so she would get frustrated with both of us, like as if we had these Pollyanna or like, oh,
Mm.
everything's colorful unicorns, whatever. No, that's not it
Love
at
and
all.
light, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not it at all. Okay. I was born. Okay. Okay. Let me start this way. At any moment in time, you can lean over and draw a circle around your feet because that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Y'all have heard me say this before, right? So, and yes, Donna, Molly's advice was amazing. Thank you, Molly, for sharing all that.
Thanks to Kat.
Okay. So, at any moment in time, you can draw a circle around your feet. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. What in your direct environment can you do to help?
Yeah.
So it's horrible what's happening in the Middle East. I agree. I was placed here. I wasn't placed over there. If I was placed over there, I could make a change. I could make a change within my circle, within my environment, whether it's keeping people safe or changing someone's attitude, whatever it is. Okay. Like that's a whole nother conversation. I'm here in my space, and my only job is to be the best version of myself. So yes, there's the news. I don't watch it. And let me just say this. I don't watch the news. So has that affected me? I'm still here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still here. Okay? Like yes, I know what's going on in the world because you would literally have to not own any devices to not know what's going on in the world. But I place my attention on myself to make myself the best version, because I say this every time too. If you want to have a conversation with me, you have to bring your best version, or else
Mm-hmm.
our energy doesn't match and we're not going to have that conversation. If we're supposed to spend time together, if we're supposed to work together, if we're supposed to have these conversations together, and if we're supposed to be in the same place at the same time, I
Mm-hmm.
keep my frequency high and my vibration high, which means that I don't place myself attention on things that are not affecting me at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when everyone's welcome, everyone's invited, please interact with me, but you have to maintain through boundaries, you have to maintain your highest version of yourself in order for us to have this conversation.
Yeah.
That's the best gift you could give anyone, is just to be your best version.
Mm-hmm.
And the news and fear and doom scrolling and all that stuff, that's programming.
Yeah.
That is to keep you dumb and dull and in fear, and
Mm-hmm.
anger masks fear. So after you're scared, then you get angry and then you start arguments with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? If that's your opinion, I honor you to have it, but don't come to me because I don't agree with you to start an argument with me, because now you're bringing us both down. In order to have that argument, we both completely drop down into a very low vibrational state. That's not fair to me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not fair to you. So I'm going to go back to maintaining my high frequency and my I'm keeping my attention on the things that will keep it high. That doesn't mean I don't care. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But today, in my direct path, I can smile at somebody when I'm outside on a dog walk. I can show up every Friday and have these conversations with wonderful people like you and everyone that's in the chat. That's where I'm placing my attention.
Mhm.
That there's no room for bad news here.
Mhm.
There's room for great conversation about things. But yeah, Donna, just let her know that you're still going to wake up tomorrow. Nothing's going to change in your day-to-day life if you don't have the news on. And it doesn't make you a bad person to not want to see suffering because you're aware of it. But suffering is someone else's path. We've all gone through some bullshit. We've all suffered that we wrote that into our path and our chart and our blueprint, whatever you want to call it. We got through it and now we're able to have conversations that move past it. But you don't have to focus on it, you know? And when something comes up in your immediate path that you need to deal with, of course you're going to respond in the right way. Of course you care. You're going to be compassionate. You're going to be kind. You're going to be loving. You're going to go through it. And then you're going to go, but then you're going to go back to that high vibrational state because that's where you're placing your attention. And that's what you're demanding of yourself and others. So.
I like Holly's comment. I don't have to wear your ugly sweater.
That's funny.
It's true. You don't.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I agree, you know, really the concept of like recognizing the boundaries. I think when you're going through the healing journey or the enlightenment journey, as you start recognizing what feels right and what feels wrong of other people kind of putting their stuff on you, not to say that what's happening in the world is other people's stuff being put on you, but like if one person is worried about something, it's not someone else's worry, and then they're trying to make it theirs. Like that's where that energetic boundary comes in.
Yeah.
And just really recognizing when something feels like that is like that's not mine, you know, like
Mhm.
that isn't mine. Or, you know, one of the things I wanted to mention too, for anybody who's on here who maybe wants to become healer, teacher, energy
Yeah.
worker, guide, like I have really tough conversation. You know, the people who come to me need healing, right? So it's like they're going through some tough shit. They might also be feeling some of the impacts of what is happening, but to be able to hold that space for them going through something that is not personally affecting me requires me, it's my responsibility to make sure I know how to do my own nervous system recalibration, how I know how to do regulation, so that I can then, as a professional, hold this space for those much harder things that in my day-to-day might not be affecting me, but they're affecting my client and my customer and how that's affecting them. And so I just wanted to share that too, that again, it really goes back to the concept of the oxygen mask metaphor. And it's not about burying your head in the sand. It's recognizing that as you are being a functional human in today's world, figuring out how to allow yourself to function in your best way is the best thing. It's the best gift that you can give to yourself, because there will always be people in situations that are going to be bombarding, right? And so it's like, what can you do to just keep yourself as stable and foundationally structured as possible, as rooted into who you are and operating at the highest level as you can. And it requires the daily recalibration of that. It requires checking in with yourself to see how you're feeling and clearing out what isn't yours to hold. So
and you can do it gently and with compassion,
major.
you
And
know.
it takes time, right? It's like, you know, these world problems didn't start in a day. Figuring out how to decondition yourself from what has been conditioned for decades, it's not going to happen in a day. It takes time to unwind it, you know? So,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I do come off very intense when I talk about things like this, but just know that in my daily interactions with people, I'm doing it with as much compassion and kindness as possible, and letting them know that I don't agree with you, but it's totally okay to think like that. Or if you want to have a conversation, come to me. If you want to start an argument, I'm not your person.
yeah.
I'm just not. And it's okay. It's okay to say things like that too. Like I our time is valuable. Let's have a really good conversation about this. Like, don't use fear to try to don't emotionally manipulate me.
Right.
Quickest way to lose me. But and that's what it is, and it's fine. When we were in our 20s, late teens and 20s, we really thought we knew everything. Like, and that's, our kids are our greatest mirrors and our biggest triggers and all that other stuff. And everyone has a point. Like, there's always a good point from everyone's perspective. But when you can gently point out to them that their point might be coming from fear, or
Mhm.
comparing themselves to others, or listening to others tell them how they're supposed to be thinking, or when a between 20 and 30, you are really trying to figure out who you are. So you're going to wear a lot of capes and a lot of cloaks and a lot of hats and and those are all formed on other people's belief systems
Mhm.
to try to figure out who you are. And then when you are really standing in that truth and you really think it's part of it, you want to make sure everybody understands you for it, because you just
Mhm.
took this big step, and so that's where a lot of the arguments and misunderstandings can happen too, is while people are just kind of figuring out what they believe, and they're going the wrong way to try to understand it themselves, like starting arguments instead of having conversations.
Right.
Sydney, first of all, text me later and let me know why you're getting an x-ray, please. I hope you're okay. Uh, and I forgot your question from earlier, but if you want to ask again, you have our attention, and we're over 2 hours now. So Sydney will read for you, and then I can't imagine everyone can still stay longer.
Yeah, I got to go get my dog soon.
Yeah. Um,
And thank you, Sunfire Goddess. I feel like we do work together well.
oh yes, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely have Molly back whenever she's available. Do it standing monthly, Molly, if you want. Um,
Okay.
Yeah. Shannon, do you have anything that you wanted to talk about while I'm trying to find Sydney's comment from before?
No, I mean, I think this is an absolutely great conversation. And, when you're dealing with external people, one of the things that I always like to remind myself, and this comes from like high school world civilization, we started out in small groups. When humans started congregating, we're in small groups. And, now we know about things 24/7 all over the globe. And our physical nervous system, to Molly's point, you're only designed to interact with a certain number of people in your everyday life as a human.
Yeah, girl.
And when you like explode that, especially if you're very sensitive, you either they leech your energy away, you leech their pain onto you. So, keeping that clean and clear is huge. And I mean, I know
Such a
tons
good
of
point.
people have, yeah, like great practices to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But these are things you've got to figure out what works for you, what kind of
100%.
barrier you're going to put up, if it's a
Yeah.
barrier, how you're going to remove things that get into your energy body and your light body and your auric field.
Mhm.
So, I mean, those people use the term spiritual hygiene. And I mean, it's kind of, I feel that because I feel like, sometimes you're just taking a bath to wash off some ick that is not yours. I
Mhm.
mean, that happens to us. So, find what works for you. I'm a big salt bath person.
Same.
Yeah, I'm a salt bath person. I'm an essential oil, love to burn. Well, I say I do it, I don't do it. John burns frankincense and, different things and, whatever works for you.
Lighting
But
dumpsters
it's
on fire.
hugely important. Yeah. Yeah.
Just kidding. Sorry.
But, those are things, and you have to figure out what works for you, and everybody should try a few things and see what works best for different situations.
100%.
Yes. Well, you finished this conversation so well with the reminder that we have access to way too much now. Like
Yeah.
growing up, there was the news came on in the morning and it came on at night, and there was probably one newspaper, and so you got headlines on things, and you could really decide how you feel about something in your community because it was actually affecting you. Now
Right.
we now
Inundate.
we're like this omnipotent presence that is aware of every horrible thing and every wonderful thing, but usually the horrible wins that's going on everywhere, and yeah, no, spiritual hygiene. I've never thought of it, but like that, and that's
Major.
my definition from now on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Sydney, what's going on, where you are going and what to focus on. And we're is perfect because we're multidimensional. I always say we. Um, where you are going and what to focus on. It's vague, but I'm sure all of us can get something for you. I just got jewelry. Are you taking a class to make jewelry, or have you been thinking about designing it or working with it? Or I feel like you I feel like something like you were going to do a class or something on jewelry making. That's so random, but um that's not like a big spiritual advancement there, but that is immediately what came up is jewelry. Or you there's something in okay, sorry. You two go. I don't want to just keep going down this jewelry line here.
You go ahead. I saw something, but I want to confirm exactly what it is that I saw.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having a dog growling match here. So
Oh my God, so funny. Okay, so again, I don't know Sydney, but immediately the first thing that I saw was almost this like swirling pink planet. So there's something around the concept of like starting a new venturing into a new world. So kind of like starting a brand new even more so than just like a chapter in your life, and even more than like a book, like really like adventuring into like a whole new unknown. But the visual I was getting was almost like this swirly pink, like Saturn. So it might be worth seeing where Saturn is like placed in your chart, and or even just connecting into it as a planet and seeing if there's anything around that specifically. But I saw sort of this almost like maybe it was no, it wasn't Neptune, some sort of like pink swirly gaseous planet, and almost like you like walking out onto this like walkway towards it. So for me, this is very much like bracing into a new world. And there was something about Saturn there. So
Well, Saturn is the disciplinarian and the reminder that you're stop fooling around. You're supposed to get back on your path and your focus
mm,
and apply yourself.
mm.
And
This
that's
also
being
it
nice.
didn't yeah, it felt like almost even a return. So like not necessarily just embarking in an totally new world, but embarking in a world that is different from yours, but there was a sense of familiarity there. So there might be some just like remembrances around that energy. What did you say? The disciplinarian and the you said structure and like foundation?
Yeah, Saturn can be such a harsh, like, um, stern parent, but I was
Mm,
trying to make it nicer. Like, it reminds you to stop fooling around and get back on your path and
mm,
get back to your focus, because whereas we're supposed to give ourselves a break, we're also supposed to remember the things that make us feel um, aligned and give us purpose, like
mm,
daily rituals and things that we do around the house to keep it clean, to take care
mm,
of our health. Those things may feel like chores sometimes, but they actually, if when they're all done well, keep us functioning really well, and
mm,
wellness and happiness and come from that. Um, so I quite a few times I saw um, the yoga position where you're just sitting with your legs crossed, and there was a really balanced feeling. And so, Sydney, have you been sitting in poses or focused on your breathing and your aligning, like doing something for yourself physically, maybe in the world of yoga? I don't feel like it's actually like attending classes, but I think you might be placing your attention back on yourself, and that includes some um, habits that have worked for you in the past, and you're bringing those back in because you want to, because you have been on this awakening path and bringing a lot in, and seeking a lot of information, and I think you're trying to get back to the things that help you feel more grounded so that you can process everything that you just learned. Yeah. Mudras to me are Emily, that's a good point. Mudras to me are hand. My light language is mudras. I see like sitting. It doesn't even have to be in meditation, but as much as like an awareness of, I'm going to sit with my back straight because I know I'm going to feel better if I do. I'm going to focus on the now and breathe, and and like the things that I've done in the past and they've made me feel really good. I want to get back to those things because I, for some reason, forgot to do those things for a while, and now I feel a little disconnected, and my attention's kind of been in all these different places, and it's all been good. It's all been growth and learning. But maybe the grounding needs to.
Cool.
I don't know. Maybe you need to speak your truth. I'm not sure.
All right. I'm getting to the end of my time here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and Sydney, I hope you're okay that you are getting an X-ray. Okay. Yes, meditation, self-focus after a long journey, finding me within me, and finding self after a really long journey.
And I just, based on the foundational, like the routines, the rituals that Kimberly was talking about, there was a lot of the visual I saw of you kind of embarking into this new planet, this new world of yourself. There was a lot of hope. There was a lot of like optimism. So I also think that it's important to keep that hand in hand of you can instill new foundations or old ones, old routines, old rituals, old prior things that have worked for you, and rebuild this new thing that you're stepping into. And foundation and structure and rigidity don't have to be harmful things if they are building the new life that you're optimistic about, So I just wanted to share that too, that there's some really good positive energy here in the structure that she was sharing. So
yeah. Awesome.
And I don't know why, but I just keep getting sculpting.
Ooh.
I don't know. I keep seeing formation of clay, some sort of art. And so I don't know if you work in anything related to that, but like ceramic sculpture, which requires a lot of practice and discipline. So it would, go hand in hand with the Saturn. So I don't know if there's anything artistically you're working on as part of this, but I think you should really, whatever you're working on and whatever feels right in that artistic creative vein, you're meant to be spending a lot of time on.
Yeah. Funny, I rarely pull cards, but I have the Disney villain tarot card, and I just think it's so funny. They're really cool too. So I did pull a card for you, and you got it's the Page of Swords.
Oh, cute.
Okay, so it's a kitty, but it's actually it's kind of right on. It says represents a curious person who's eager to learn and explore new ways to reach a goal. The Page of Swords reminds you that mistakes are learning opportunities. Don't be discouraged because you'll have another chance to pounce soon.
That's cute.
Yeah. Whenever we're on a path of self-discovery and we have like one epiphany after another, it's so exciting. But then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I need to do a few things. Like I need to remember to drink water and go to the bathroom. Like I've been so up here, that do a few things that just bring you back to your body and remind you of what feels good, and keep all of that information and that wisdom, and then maybe pick up, go back. I don't know if you've ever sculpted. Like Sydney's an amazing painter, and then
Mm,
find a jewelry class or a sculpting class at a city college, cheap, and just
yeah.
go in and pretend like you've never done this before and amaze everybody. Oh no, I just want
Use
to be a
sculpting to
natural.
make jewelry. Yeah,
There
that's
you go. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wow. See, what did I say, Molly? 2.5 hours, and you don't even notice that it goes by.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. All the new faces. It was so cool to see you, and of course, we are here because of the returning faces. Um, this is the highlight of our week, or my week. Yeah. Thank you, Molly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me
Yeah.
on, Shannon. Lovely to meet you, Kimberly. What a beautiful container you have created. So thank you, audience, for all of your interaction, and thank you, ladies, for allowing me to join you today.
Yes.
It was so fun.
Everyone, please, please, please go. I had it up here before.
R&R with Molly B, babies.
Yeah.
R&R.
Please follow Molly on Instagram. And Molly is an extremely powerful reader and healer and session extraordinaire. Like
Thank you.
you will get so much out of a session with Molly. Please, please, please look her up and reach out to her.
Yeah.
I would.
If anyone's watching this, feel free to message me. I'm happy to give you a 20% discount as being a follower. So definitely feel
Ooh.
free. I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok.
Okay. And of course, I had everything ready here, and then I forgot to click back to it because I just kept clicking on the chat. Okay. Here's Molly's handle for Instagram and TikTok. Yes, please. I am so careful who I meet with and who I allow to read me, because I am on a journey going in one direction, and I don't want to be distracted or return to things that have already been covered. And you will not get that with Molly. It was a fascinating session with you. I enjoyed every set. Like your Reiki was beautiful and healing, and then what you shared with me like was extraordinary. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate
We
you.
love you. We are grateful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. We are mirrors for everyone that's in here. The only reason that this works is because of your amazing energy that you bring, and the funny chat that goes on, and how you're so kind to each other. Thank you. We've never even had to have a moderator.
Yeah.
And only once did I see one slightly odd comment that was directed at one of our guests. Clearly, it was from something outside of us. And I mean, I got rid of it just because I didn't want to leave anything negative. But like this is a really safe space, y'all.
Major.
So thank you. And yes, everyone sleep well. Sleep is so important right now. We all keep waking up in the middle of the night, so sleep's really important right now.
Hydration and rest, babies. Hydration and rest.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, and Molly, we'll have you back soon. So
I would love it. Yeah, I would love it. Thank you all.
all right, well, tell those dogs to give you a break, Shannon. We'll put all my doves and the dogs in the same room, and they can outdo each other. Okay. Love you all. Thank you.
Have a good night.